military sites, but he left the island's oil facilities intact for now. The president warning they could be targeted if Iran continues to interfere with shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. Meantime, 2,500 more U.S. Marines are being sent to the area. The Pentagon is examining a tragic refueling accident in Iraq.
All right, you get everything right.
U.S. service members. This week, Fox's Steve Harrigan is on the border between Iran and Armenia.
Ohio's Governor Mike DeWine announcing that 3 of those 6 U.S. service members killed were from the Ohio Air National Guard. Of course, that Air Force plane going down over western Iraq, 9 p.m. Baghdad time, just after dark. It crashed in the western desert there, killing all 6 members on board. U.S. military officials have been clear that there was no enemy fire involved in this attack, no friendly fire either. Here's General Kane.
I ask that we remember our fallen and those participating in the recovery operations to bring home our lost KC-135 crew.
A second aircraft was involved in that incident, but it was able to land safely. Right now, an investigation into the causes of the crash is underway.
Meantime, at least 13 service members have now been killed during Operation Epic Fury. About 140 U.S. troops wounded, including 8 listed as severely injured. A now former New York State trooper has been found guilty of manslaughter in a 2020 police chase that killed an 11-year-old girl. Prosecutors say Christopher Baldner rammed an SUV twice during a high-speed pursuit, causing it to lose control and flip over. The victim was Monica Goods, a passenger in that vehicle. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. Welcome to Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks. I am Gregory Ricks, your host. Been bringing this show to you. I don't know. Oh my gosh, I think 16 years now. Thereabouts, about to where I don't count exactly anymore. Just been doing it a long time. And I know I appreciate some of you have been along the ride. Tune in every week. I hear stories all the time. Had a gentleman catch me in a hallway yesterday. You know, our headquarters is 2800 Veterans Memorial Boulevard. That's in Metairie. And I was walking in the atrium area, and a gentleman walks, "Are you Gregory?" I said, "Yep, that's me." He said, "Oh, I listen to your show often. Thank you." And I said, "Well, thank you for listening." So hey, get that. I had a few other occurrences this week where people recognized or asked me if I was that Gregory. It's kind of crazy. I told you a story a while back. Had a mechanic come in, and he was looking at some equipment that I had, and we were talking for a bit, and he says, "You know, you sound just like this guy I listened to on the radio show out of the Gulfport area." And so I listened to him talk about it, and then I said, "Well, you know, just coincidentally, that is me. That's who, yeah." And so we kind of talked about that. So it's crazy, some occurrences that come up from the show and impact lives. And I think that's the biggest thing about the show and what we do at Gregory Ricks Total Wealth is we impact lives. We did an educational event this week over in Mandeville Library, and there was somewhere about 50 people showed up for that. And it is one of these that we do through AFIA, which is a nonprofit. So we're doing those educational events of that type this year. We're doing them in Mandeville as well on the Gulf Coast of Mississippi region. We've got one coming up in 2 weeks in Biloxi. So it's a different way of connecting, but the thing is, a lot of people coming in, they already kind of know us, and our name's not on it. It's just it's a public service that we're doing. There's no, and anytime I do an educational event, there's really no sales. We're not selling. You can't buy anything because we're not there to sell anything. But this actually is more generic. And if you're looking for help, guidance, or like this was Social Security topic, and the one we're holding in Biloxi is going to be on Social Security. Now, if you would like some income analysis or Social Security analysis to look at strategies for turning it on, when, how does that correlate with income? Yeah, you can come into the office. We'll make that happen for you. And it's not like you got to do something, because whenever, and we do a lot of appointments every week where people have listened to the show over the years or come across our material or see some of the TV stuff that we're doing, or they're aware of us and they just, okay, it's time. And they reach out. And even when you come in, there is no obligation. Nobody's going to be pushy like, oh, sign up now. There's, I don't know if you've heard of this, but I've been in the financial services industry for a long time, and there's this phrase called a one call close. And it's kind of a sales thing in the sales industry, where they get a customer, they would like to close that customer when they come in. For example, car dealerships. When you go there looking at a car and you talk to salesman, you do a test drive and you kind of talk numbers, they want to close you right then. I don't know what their probabilities are about people returning and buying and so forth. And there's obviously a drop off because 100% of the people don't come back. But if they have you there, you're there. So they look to close you there. Look, in the insurance industry, I've seen that philosophy. I've seen it in the investment philosophy that they try to close you there. Going years back, I had a rule, and it goes back quite a while, but one of the rules was, and I talked about it on the radio show in the early days of the Winning at Life show, is that I used to have a policy that you could not become a client on the first visit. It's just a rule. You could not. So that is non-threatening. You can come in or any. And then sometimes we would have people like, yeah, I'm ready to get started. I need to get started. So it was kind of pressing against my rule, because I'd say, well, I can't break that rule, but we can get you back in tomorrow. And after a while, I kind of had to relax and stop the policy that way. Whereas somebody comes in and they're asking to get started, say somebody's listened to the show a long time, or they're in a situation where they've got a deadline coming regarding their rollover plan or something, and I kind of had to vacate that policy to where you can become a client on the first visit. But here's what we have always done that we still do today, is we don't ask you to become a client. We don't ask you to make a decision. We do not expect that to happen on a first visit. what our objective is to continue the conversation. What we do ask you to do is come back for another visit to look at the Social Security analysis, look at the income plan that we put together, other things that we're looking at. If we're doing a tax analysis, things that there's some list of about a dozen things, like going to a doctor's office and you've got some health problems and so forth, and they're wanting to do, get a urine sample, get a blood sample. We want to schedule you for this test, and then we'll get you back in the office, say next week, to go over the results of that. And that's what we're doing from the information we get from you in the first visit, is we're going to sit down and go over that with you in the next visit. We will, in that second visit, ask you, are you interested in moving forward? And it is kind of, and I spoke to the team about this yesterday, and I said, we don't ask anything like that on the first visit. The only thing we ask you to do is come back in for a second visit and look at this list of things. And we'll even, we hold a second visit slot for you. And at the end of the first visit, we've got a checklist of the different things we're going to prepare to review with you on the next visit. It's kind of like that list of tests that we're going to do. And you can elect to take that visit or adjust the time for the next visit. That's simply all we do from a first visit. If you don't come back or say, well, I want to think about it, I'm not sure I want to come back, or you say, I'd rather not come back. All those options are available to you, and it's okay. We do have follow-up methods and keeping in touch with you, and hopefully add some value to your life going forward by making that initial connection. It's what we try to do. But if you come back in for that second visit, at some point during that second visit, we will, in going over this stuff, and for time's sake, we'll ask you, were you considering moving forward with us today, getting started? We want to make sure there's kind of time to do a little bit of paperwork on getting that process going. And if not, we see how that visit goes up and then schedule another visit. Ultimately, if we keep having meetings, we're working together. If we don't keep having meetings, you know where that's going. We're not working together at this time. And there is a family that came on board with us this week. They had called in, got our newsletter again, and I guess opened it, read it, and they when they called in, they said, "Yeah, I was looking at this picture of Gregory in the information, and it was back in, I don't know, let's see, this is 2026. I think they had met with me in 2014. They said, yeah, when we met with Gregory before, he didn't have gray hair, and now he has gray hairs. They said, well, maybe it's time we set a visit and get going. I just thought that was a funny correlation. I think they had a need more so that I'm gray-headed and it's time to get started, but they kind of correlated that the last time they were in, I didn't have gray hair. And I think that's all I have is gray hair now. Not over the stress of the business or anything. That's pretty much age there that comes with. But I enjoy the business just like I did 10 years ago and 20 years ago. It's still a passion about helping people and getting information, and more so when they met with me back in 2014, we had a much smaller staff of people. Today, where we employ, I don't know the exact count, 23, 24 people. And we're in the process of hiring a few more. We're looking to add a couple of analysts on. We're going to bring on the advisor team a couple of interns we're looking to add on. And I'm looking to add a quality control person to the team as well. So we're always looking at how we can do better for the clients and make sure we have people available to help them with their questions, take the calls, do a meeting, just to make sure we have. One of the things I think about important that we try to do, and that's where we make sure we have enough licensed people involved with our clients to where they feel like they have a team of people working with them. And I would like to kind of, if they're getting attached to a team of 5 people, you know, a service person, a relationship person, an analyst, and an advisor. Right there, I've kind of named all 4 right there, but typically it's 5 when I kind of note that. You get a recap email. It's listing about 5 people that's being copied on that going forward. That way, if you're calling in and say you're wanting to speak to that advisor and that person's in a meeting, you can speak with the analyst or the client services person. They're all up to speed on what's going on with you as well. So I don't mean to ramble on, but that's just kind of doing this show for a long time and being a part of the community in the show. Our firms are a part of the community, and we want this to be a relaxed environment. You know, one of the things I've said over the years, no matter who you're working with, and I spoke about the one call close, and to my mind, and I've been doing financial services my adult life for the most part. I got into insurance sales while in college, was kind of my first introduction to that. And I'll tell you, it was a totally uncomfortable thing for me back then. But what I've always believed in is no pressure, because I also don't like that on the other end, where if I go, I don't like to be pressed to make a decision. And that's where I always kind of like to think about it. I remember just, you know, I've bought a few cars over the years, and I just remember a few years back on, I wanted to swap out a Jeep that I had, and I was interested in this particular model. I remember the salesman following up with me, and he says, well, you know, if you don't come out and look at it, you know, somebody's going to buy it. And I said, yeah, I know. I just don't have time for that right now. I do have an interest, but I'll get to it when I get to it. And that's where he said, you know, if somebody's going to come along and buy it, it's not going to last long. And I said, and this was my response, I said, I'm pretty sure Jeep is going to build another one. I think they build them every day. I said, I might not can get that one, but I'll get one in the future. So I was not going to be prodded. I did end up getting that particular one a few weeks later, but I wasn't in a hurry. If it wasn't there, I was going to be okay. There was something else, and I believe this in shopping and such there, and you shouldn't feel under pressure. When you're ready to go, move forward. But in financial services, sometimes there's timely things like getting your Roth account open, or get an account open to do your IRA contribution timely, or doing a Roth conversion creates some things that have to fit into a window. Or if you've got to do a rollover, you've left your employer and now they're wanting you to move your 401k away. Some of those are timely things, or the and reason for that is if you don't roll it over, they're going to kick the money out. And have seen this happen to people where all of a sudden they leave this company and it was a hospital in particular. Next thing you know, they said, I got this check in the mail and it was my retirement plan. They've kicked it out and withheld taxes. Oh, see, you have to pay attention when you leave your employer. You need to make sure you have an understanding of how that's going to play out. And is there anything you have to do? And in this case, they kicked out the money out of the plan and withheld taxes. So then how to fix that is we have to go in, and to undo that, you have to go in and treat it as a 60-day rollover, meaning we got to get that money into a IRA rollover account within 60 days of that check being generated. And to reverse the taxes is you're going to have to put money in for that amount that's withheld through your next tax return. You're going to get that money back to you, but it's a very time sensitive thing. So if you're coming in and having that discussion, it's kind of like where I've talked about, okay, we got to get started working on this today. Here's the next steps to do that. So we have a lot of those situations come up where a person will get started on the first visit because they're needing help fixing things immediately there. Or it could be timeliness because they're having to make a decision on inheriting funds and so forth. So you have a number of things that create that urgency. Or all of a sudden they're having to make a retirement decision coming up pretty quick, some timeliness things for people to move forward. But with that said, I always believe, whether I'm shopping online or buying a car, I don't want to be pressed to make an immediate decision. That's like on that first visit. I personally don't care for that. That's why I'd like to come back and talk about it. There was something I ordered online, a dartboard set, and Stacy and I had talked about it, and it was through Front Gate, and I'd put it in my order box last Sunday or something, and then I went back to look at it on Monday, and it kicked me out because I was going to click and order through with it, and it kicked me out, and I said, oh, the box, the cart is empty. So I said, okay, I don't have time to fool with that, and I moved on. And we were talking last night about it, and she asked me about it. And I said, yeah, but, and she went ahead and handled it and ordered it. I said, yeah, I'd still like to get that dartboard game. And so she ordered it for me, and it was on sale. So it was a pretty good deal from that standpoint. But that's kind of where, if you think about it, in essence, there's times it saves you money because I've moved on or not bought something where I was thinking about buying something and I kind of will go back the next day. So I even use that philosophy in ordering online because I'm thinking about it, but if I don't act on it, well, I save some money by not moving forward from that process. And sometimes firms will leave it in the cart for a few days, what I've seen, and then others like Frontgate, they bounce you out the next day. I think that's a mistake on their part. They should probably adjust their algorithms to leave it in the cart for a couple of days, because you might circle back and just then send you a reminder or something if you're signed up with them for that. For us, if you don't schedule that second visit, say, well, let me absorb this information and think about it, we will circle back and check in with you. We have a follow-up process over a period of time, and we add you to our newsletter list, our bi-monthly newsletter, and we'll send you emails to keep communications going. And if you want to opt out of that stuff, you can opt out as well. There's no pressure, but what we do, and just like the person that had met with me in 2014 that now became a client at the firm, we've been following up with them since then. They get the newsletter, they get stuff periodically from us, and it's all kind of passive that we do. My philosophy is we'll drip on you from now on, because what we're doing is adding value. It's not like we're sending you nonsensical stuff. Our objective is to add value, and that's something we at the firm are talking about, adding value even for folks that don't want to go forward, that we do follow-ups. And I said, I just don't want to just follow up with them to try to get them to come back in. I said, what I would like the follow-ups to become is when we follow up with them, we're giving them value. And if they want to come in, they can. If they don't, we're not worried about it. I think just adding continuous value takes care of that. Like our newsletter adds value. If we call you up, I want you to have an idea, or we're giving you some information on something you might not be aware of, and that adds value, and hopefully that makes things better for you. Just like existing clients, one of the things we do, and you might not be getting this service from your firm, is we do quarterly calls and touch bases with you. We do annual reviews as well. Some clients get more than one, depending upon asset size and their situation. They might need more reviews, and we call those annual reviews, we call those strategy meetings, because when you kind of look at the past, that's really easy to see, and you have so much online access, you have a portal, so you can really see where you've been the past year or the past quarter or the past week. But the meeting's more about, what do we see going forward? What changes are we going to make? So you're followed up with to do your upcoming strategy meeting, but we do a quarterly touch base with you. And one of the shifts we're wanting to make that, and I don't want it to just be a touch base, but we're changing to where, for existing clients that we're following up with on a quarterly basis, is it's going to be a value added thing, that to make sure they're aware that we're doing this, or we've added this on, or we've got this idea to help them. And it might also be non-financial as well. But I don't want it just to be, hey, we're just calling to see what's going on with you, if everything's okay, if there's anything you need. I want it to be a value add to your life for having answered the phone and taken the call from that standpoint. And that's where people that don't go forward with us, when we do follow-ups with them in the future, we want those to be a value add. We're giving you something of value when we speak. So that's some things we're working on, and I think that is much more impactful than just calling you, hey, you want to come back in for that visit too that you scheduled 4 months ago? Want to see if you want to come back in. Instead, we're going to just call you and add value to your life. If you want to come in, you'll ask for it, and we're okay with that from that standpoint. I've got some other stuff to cover with you on the show. I've got a big stack of stuff here. We're going to come up and take a break here shortly, and I'll look through my notes and see what I'm going to talk to you about next on the next half-hour segment. But one of the things you can do, if you like the story you're hearing here, you keep tuning into the show Saturday. Check out our YouTube channel. You can stream the show right now on our YouTube channel. And gosh, let me ask a favor of you. Go to our YouTube channel, Gregory Ricks on YouTube, and start streaming the show right now, and share it with some friends right there. But if you're looking for some help, our office number's 504-832-9200. The website's gregoryricks.com. Email us info@gregoryricks.com. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back with more. Are you worried about navigating the new tax law? Gregory Ricks Total Wealth is hosting a workshop on what the One Big Beautiful Bill could mean for your retirement. Join us Thursday, March 19th at 5:30 in Metairie. Seating is limited. Secure your spot today by calling 504-832-9200 or at gregoryricks.com.
Investment advisory products and services are made available through AE Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Gregory Ricks Associates is not affiliated with the U.S. government.
When it comes to your home loan, details matter. At Mortgage Gumbo Dadcam, we've been serving our communities with true white glove service for over 30 years. 30 years of proven results isn't luck. It's knowledge earned, markets navigated, and trust built one home loan at a time. Just read our reviews. Whether you're buying, refinancing, or planning your next move, let's create a tailored strategy to meet your needs. Seasoned guidance, clear answers, your goals met. Mortgage Gumbo, Dad can.
Hi, I'm Wes Blanchard. We all know Louisiana law is different, but that hasn't stopped national companies from pushing cookie-cutter wills and trusts that don't fit our state. At W.J. Blanchard Law, we're local and we're problem solvers. We don't sell fill-in-the-blank forms and hope for the best. We build custom plans that fit your life, your family, and Louisiana law. No templates, no guesswork, just local guidance that puts you first. Visit WJBlanchardLaw.com today to get started. What's your plan? Offices in Metairie and Mandeville. Filing number LA 2519459.
Mom, it stinks.
Hush, I'm almost done. All right, now you're safe from bugs in the backyard. Don't let mosquitoes ruin your outdoor fun. Call Mosquito Joe today. When you call, they come out and they do the spraying. Mosquito Joe's time-release capsule lasts for about a month. No more sticky bug sprays. Take back your backyard. NewOrleans.MosquitoJoe.com. NewOrleans.MosquitoJoe.com.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks is a copyright of Down South Strategies for the private use of our audience. Any unauthorized use of this broadcast without express consent is prohibited. For podcasts, show information, and contacts to our sponsors, go to winningatlife.com or download the Winning at Life app. If you have a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory. We are Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
What I know about courage, I learned from my adoptive mom. She said sometimes you just gotta hold on and know we'll get through this. Mom, we are so high up. Hold my hand.
No, you hold my hand.
Here we go.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt U.S. Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Fox News, I'm Paul Stevens. The U.S. conducting a major strike on Iran's Karg Island.
President Trump needs leverage, and where he's finding that leverage is Karg Island, which is responsible for 96% of Iran's oil exports. And right now, President Trump isn't bombing Iran's oil facilities on the island, but he did take out the military targets.
Fox's Lucas Tomlinson in Dubai. More travel chaos expected at big airports this weekend. Travelers with thousands of TSA workers still not getting paid.
The reduced staffing has led to long security lines for travelers, with airports warning passengers to arrive 2 to 3 hours earlier than normal to make their flights. Plus, the stress on TSA workers are causing many to take on a second job or call in sick. Some 300 have already quit their jobs, according to the White House.
That's Fox's Chanley Painter. America's listening to Fox News.
Welcome back. You're listening to Winning at Life. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks. You can catch us every Saturday here from 10 to 12, listening to this on the iHeartRadio app or your local station here in the Metro New Orleans area and on the Gulf Coast of Mississippi, but you can utilize the iHeartRadio app also for listening to the show no matter where. And we have a lot of people listening to the show across the country. And the YouTube channel as well. And we have a tremendous amount of educational content on our YouTube channel. And Chris kind of directs that for us. And I think you add content every week, don't you, to it? Yeah, so he breaks things up, makes snippets, short, smaller bites versus a 2-hour show. So I don't know that we put it up as a 2-hour show anymore. And we used to do a 3-hour show. And this year I narrowed that, compressed it to 2 hours. And so it's from 10 to 12 that we do this for you every week, and then we repurpose information and content, and we are working towards having the Winning at Life podcast that we are working on to roll out here in the near future. And that is something that we will capture during the week, and we're going to have weekly guests and such on that as well. So that is something we are working on. Guess it's kind of becoming a thing. Heck, we didn't even have streaming and such where you can stream the show. You know, if you didn't listen to the actual radio show that's being aired by the radio stations, you weren't catching the show. But then we've got streaming apps, replays, streaming on Facebook, streaming on YouTube. It's something how everything's evolved, and tremendous amount of content from that standpoint. So many platforms to utilize to get the message out, and from an educational standpoint, it's kind of like you could be overwhelmed. Can be, will be. We shouldn't be overwhelmed, but there is a lot of information. And, you know, the very old school way is, how about my book, Retirement Deserves a Helpful Hand? And it's an easy read. You should. And one of the purposes of doing it, that you could knock it out in a couple hours. And first chapter starts off with the importance of planning. Chapter 1's about longevity. We cover taxes, market volatility, and we'll talk to you about that in a few minutes. Retirement income, Social Security. Yeah, is there retirement without income? I say there is not. So you do need to plan for that. The educational event we held in the Mandeville area this past week was a focus on Social Security strategies, and I cover that in the book with you. Retirement plans, annuities, important topic. And we had somebody that was concerned, not somebody, but we had a client that's been a client for a while and had market assets, of course, diversified, and we already were conservative about that, and it's not uncommon for somebody to come back in and say, you know what, I just like to take risk off the table. How do we go about that? And then we have strategies for that. And we also have tools called fixed annuities. And those tools can take the risk, meaning the insurance companies are picking up the risk, the individual is not. So we got fixed interest annuities, fixed indexed annuities. I cover that in the book. That's on page 87 also. Something really important that we've made a change at the firm also regarding estate and legacy planning, because we've now, when we move you through our process of you coming in for that first visit. Second visit is kind of looking at the strategies and what a plan would look like. A visit 3 kind of involves implementation. The visit 4 is the binder plan delivery happens. And beyond visit 4 is advanced planning. And that's where we may dig into some tax strategies, advanced tax strategies, but also advanced planning involves estate and legacy. And that's one of our emphasis is after visit 4, we're moving you into advanced planning. You're going to be aware of it, but that's where we want to make sure you have your powers of attorney, that at least you have a will. You might not do any trust or anything, but we want you to have those core documents because something may happen. You may become incapacitated. You might have an injury. You might die. And you kind of need some of that put in place, even though you think, well, I'm going to live forever. I'm not worried about that. I walk around with a bubble protecting me. Well, you still need those things in place, so we shift you to that next phase. And that's where we were having a discussion on sometimes when clients are onboarding, they're not sure of who to make as beneficiaries and stuff. And sometimes that's a little bit of struggle on getting a decision made because we kind of need to fill that in, especially on qualified plans. And that's one thing I encourage them, make a decision so we can move forward, get this started. And within the next 60 days, we're going to have you shifting into, and I just loosely put 60 days, but at some point we're moving you on. Once we get to the binder delivery, we're moving you to advanced planning. So that's where we would dig in, review your beneficiary instructions. And if you're needing to adjust or tweak that, you've had some time to think more about it. But that's also where we're going to add to the estate and legacy planning. That will, you need your powers of attorney, and you at least need a will, and you need that correlated to your documents, where an annuity goes by beneficiary designation, life insurance goes by beneficiary designation, your 401k has beneficiary designations, and these things you should review every year to make sure they're up to date. But there's also assets, your non-qualified assets don't go by beneficiary designation. Your house, your car, stuff you're wanting to leave behind, your pet, your gold coins. There's a lot of stuff that needs to cover. And then from a medical standpoint, what happens if you become incapacitated? What are your instructions there? And then the will of how do you want everything handed out. This isn't complicated stuff. It's just stuff that needs to be done. So it is part of our process going forward that we're scheduling that for you. It's that nudge. In the past, I've kind of like, we just do the nudge and the reminders, but now part of our process is we schedule that for you to do that. Because most people have not done that. And if you already have that in place and wanting to kind of review it all, we'll help you with that and update it. But with that said, if you don't have it, we're pushing you into that process so you have that taken care of. Because you say, well, I'll get to it in the future. Do you have a to it? It's this little round wood coin that has to it on it. And that's what people, you pick up on what I'm saying. Yeah, I'll get around to it. Well, I used to have those to hand out people. Well, here's a round to it. So now you can get started. You have that. So they're, is kind of amusing to get people to move forward. I thought that was comical back in the day. I don't have any round to it's to give out, but maybe we should start doing that again with round to it's. When they say we get around to it, maybe we should send them one so they could get started. But we It's that important. And if you don't have your estate planning in place, you're incomplete. You've got a financial plan. You've got a plan for building your retirement savings, or you're now shifting to retirement. Okay, I spent a good bit of 10 minutes on that one chapter right there. See, that's page 97 in the book. And then Women Retire Too. That's on page 107, speaking to women right there. And then Finding a Financial Professional. Right now, I want somebody that's obligated to act in your best interest. We don't look at compensation, and here's the thing: we act in your best interest at all cases, but there is a conflict, and that's one of the things in disclosures and all. Because what's the conflict? You pay us, we get paid, but that's not what motivates us. Because one of the things. Here's the question for you. Are you, whoever you're working with financial stuff on, are you your financial person's, and I'll define it as that, only customer this week or this month? They're kind of really needing you to become a client or to do a transaction. Are you their only meeting this week? How many, you're working with somebody, are they very busy? So whose interest are they looking for? They're kind of like, yeah, I've got rent coming due, or I've got a house payment, I've got kids' tuition coming up. What's their motivation? Our motivation is taking care of you, because we're a place where business is being done, meaning we're busy. Our advisory team, all the advisors that work for us, their calendars are pretty full every week. They go to work having meetings every day. They're not out there spending time. Let me go, I'm kind of needing a customer. I got to go find somebody. I got to go knock on some doors. I got to be calling some people. Our advisors are not on the hunt for prospects. Those naturally come to us in the processes that we've built in place over the years. Our advisors prepare for the meetings that's on their calendar. They're not on the hunt. How do I get more meetings? I experienced that a long time ago when I was young. Was like, oh my gosh, how do I find somebody interested in doing business with me, and always having to be prospecting. And back in the day, I would go business to business, talking to business owners. I'd go knock on people's doors. I did that a long time ago. I would do 100 calls a day. Did that a long time ago. We don't have to do stuff like that, because people reach out to us daily looking for help and stuff. So our calendars are full. So when I say we are obligated, we have to act in your best interest. It's the standard. And we naturally are that, because we don't have to do a transaction. We don't have to, when you're there, like, are they needing me as a client? Do they have to have some? We have no quotas. We have no requirement or anything. We're going to do what's best for you. If that works out in us working together, fine. If it doesn't, go forward. That is fine too, because we're going to be okay. It's kind of like the restaurant. I don't want to be the restaurant's only customer for lunch. I'm telling you, if you go into a restaurant and you're the only person there, or it's a big restaurant and there's only a few people there, now if you're there at 3:00 having lunch, yeah, they're not going to be very busy at that time. But if you're there at noon, or you're there at 6 and there's not much going on, I'm a little bit worried. there, because I kind of like to go where business is being done. I don't want to be their only customer. At a financial firm, you got somebody coming to your house to handle stuff for you. You don't know what their office looks like. Do they look like they're going to be in business for a while? Are they busy? Is there other staff? Does their stuff look nice? You have somebody coming by your house doing stuff. One day you might ought to go by their office. Do they have an office? I think those are important things to ask, and that's why you're going to meet, because sometimes people say, well, can y'all come out to the house? I'm sorry, we cannot, because we're pretty busy with meetings at our multiple offices. We just don't have that time to go to somebody's house, but we'll work it out for your convenience to set you an appointment to come to our office. You should come to our office. That's where all of our resources are. That's where our staff is. You need to see that we're a quality firm. We've got our act together. It's a nice place. And I'm telling you, it looks like we're going to be in business for a long time, because we have it going on. You're not the only person coming in for lunch that day. And I think that's an important part of the process out there. So I kind of went through the book, and it turned out it's kind of the theme of this half hour. Retirement Deserves a Helpful Hand. If you'd like a copy of the book, you can go to Amazon and order it. That would be awesome. But you know what I did before I left the office yesterday afternoon? Everybody had left. I think I was the only one still there. I was in my office, and there was a stack of books on the desk, and it was a stack of these, Retirement Deserves a Helpful Hand. And I sat down and I started signing books. And that's, for those that are watching on YouTube, you can see an example of a signed book. And I sat there and started signing books, because you know what we do? We have people request books at the events. We give out books as a prize. We do a drawing from those that attended the educational event and so forth. That comes up, and show listeners and so forth. If you reach out to us, you can email us. We just kind of need that, because if we're sending you the book, we're kind of needing your address right there, and we'll get a signed copy out to you as well by simply asking. Reach out, info@gregoryricks.com is the email address, or call the office 504-832-9200. And that perhaps maybe even could get you on our bi-monthly newsletter as well. I think it's a great, simple read. It's a starting point of your education on how to grow money and how to make a difference. And there's so much. Here's a book I think this is a great book. Here you can see all these notes I've got here on this book, Psychology of Money. With the volatility from time to time, and I don't necessarily like time stamping shows anymore, but and this was his book. I probably need to go get me an updated, see when his last revision of this book is, but I bought this book. This was first published in 2020, the hardback edition 2021. And it looks like this is that copy. So I've had this book. So I'm going to give you a little bit of information here from that. But what he's going through here on this chapter, getting wealthy versus staying wealthy, in chapter 5 in the book, is really a good chapter. But he kind of goes through some points here. And it's about economics, markets, and careers often follow a similar path: growth amid loss. Here's how the U.S. economy performed over the last 170 years. He shows a graph in the book regarding that, and those on YouTube can see that graph there. And then on the next page, 66, he goes through 1.3 million Americans died while fighting 9 major wars. roughly 99.9% of all companies that were created went out of business. What a fact that is. 99.9% of all companies that were created went out of business. 4 U.S. presidents were assassinated. 670,000 Americans died in a single year from a flu pandemic. 30 separate natural disasters killed at least 400 Americans each. 30 of them, huh? 33 recessions lasted a cumulative 48 years. The number of forecasters who predicted any of those recessions, you know how many there was? I'll repeat it. The number of forecasters who predicted any of those recessions rounds to 0. No one predicted it accurately. They're always predicting it. Stock markets fell more than 10% from a recent high at least 102 times. Well, that number's a little bit higher now. Stocks have lost a third of their value at least 12 times. That means over a 30% loss. And I'll share that with you. Actually, in the book, I'm going to hold it back up and see if you can see that. But actually, that line, I have it highlighted. You know what? I like getting a deal. I like a steep discount, like that dartboard I mentioned earlier that I ordered. Why? It's like half price, something like that. It's a pretty good deal. And I wanted it for my game room. But I also liked the deal. I didn't like it at full price, and I wouldn't have ordered it, even though I wanted one. And that's where stocks lost a third of their value at least 12 times. That is scary. People that are holding investments are like, oh my gosh, what's that? My money's down by 30% when it's lost a third of the value. What it is, it's a buying opportunity too, but you shouldn't have all of your money at risk from that standpoint. Gosh, now I've got to take a break. Hey, thanks for joining us this hour. Hang in there. We're going to be back with some more information for you. You're listening to Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks on iHeartRadio and YouTube channel as well. Thank you.
If you've got a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory.
I started my retirement about 5 years ago, and I truly am late in life.
Would I be better to just withdraw the money out of my GSP and pay that mortgage off?
My problem is I have champagne taste in a beer sour. What is a balloon note?
Is that cutting it too close?
So will I still be eligible for Medicare?
Is there anything better I can do with the money I transferred into the Roth from my 401k? My goal is to retire at age 60. I'm 54 right now.
Hey, I have a 9-year-old son, and he's got probably $2,500 in. Is there anything we can invest it in?
And I just started a 401k a little late in life.
Then I should be like 10%.
Now, how far in advance do you recommend that someone goes to visit the Social Security office?
I want some money in a casino playing poker.
Gregory Ricks and Associates, 504-832-9200 or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
While serving in Vietnam, a grenade took my ability to see. Today, I'm a sculptor. Now, my fingers are my eyes. I'm Michael Naranjo. As a veteran, I know the challenges of life can be great. In my art, turning a lump of clay into something beautiful, that is worth doing. Life is like that. We each must use what we can to make things better.
DAV helps veterans like Michael get the benefits they've earned. They help more than 1 million veterans every year in life-changing ways.
Now, I show others how they can create something with their own hands. I know it can do a lot of good. With support from DAV, more veterans can shape their lives into a thing of beauty. My victory is bringing beauty into the world.
Michael Naranjo, may your victories inspire many more. Support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.org.
News Talk 99.5 WRNO-FM, New Orleans, comes from the Mortgage Gumbo Studios.
Your locally trusted home loan lender, MortgageGumbo.com.
A big target. I'm Paul Stevens, Fox News. The U.S. conducting a major strike on Iran's Karg Island, that country's main oil export terminal.
Iran is effectively holding 20% of the world's oil hostage, and it appears that President Trump wants to return the favor, take something from Iran that it needs. And that's why he announced this major bombing campaign overnight that he says struck just only military targets. The president posting the operation on Truth Social. I'll read it for everybody at home. It begins with this. The United States Central Command executed one of the most powerful bombing raids in the history of the Middle East and totally obliterated every military target in Iran's crown jewel, Karg Island. I have chosen not to wipe out the oil infrastructure on the island. However, should Iran or anyone else do anything to interfere with the free and safe passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz, I will immediately reconsider this decision.
Fox's Lucas Tomlinson in Dubai, the Iranian parliament speaker, warning that such strikes could provoke a new level of retaliation. 2 days before Thursday's attack at Temple Israel in West Bloomfield, Michigan, the synagogue was warned about a rise in threats against Jewish institutions.
Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard said he texted with the head of security at the temple with some information and ideas about how to further protect the place of worship. The sheriff also contacted the local police chief over some relevant information about potential threats as recent violence in the Middle East heightened fears of violence in the U.S. Temple security guards exchanged gunfire with 41-year-old Lebanese-American Ayman Ghazali after he slammed his explosive-filled vehicle into the synagogue. Ghazali's remains were found inside the vehicle. A security guard was hurt. 30 staffers and 106 children were unharmed. Deborah Valentine, Fox News.
And America's listening to Fox News.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to Winning at Life, the weekly show we bring to you every Saturday. Been doing it for a long time. I don't know, 16 years, something like that. It's been a lot of fun. Beyond that first episode I did back in the day. They asked me to do a live radio show, take callers back then, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can do that. And then, the scary thing, and to take callers. And over the years, I had other financial advisors ask me about that, because I've got colleagues that do recorded shows, and they were just kind of amazed. You do a live show every week, and you take callers? And I said, yeah, it's no big deal. And I said, don't you do meetings with clients every week? And you do meetings with people that are interested in getting some financial help? And I ask them this: do they ever ask you questions? They said, yeah, all the time. Do you know what questions they're going to ask in advance? No. I said, so what's the difference of them calling into a radio show and asking a question? There's actually none. And that's something I learned really quick. I said, well, that is no big deal. The questions are going to be asked. and they've got to be answered. Might take a minute, and if you don't have the answer, be honest with them about it. That we'll look up that information or get back to you on that. I've been doing this for a long time, so pretty versed, and once I got over that first episode, which that episode we won't ever re-air again. I banned it. We did a anniversary show where it was re-aired, and I'm like, I was horrible in that first one. Second episode was much better, and 16 years later, I'm just used to doing this, speaking in front of groups, doing presentations, and hosting charity events, being MC, a number of things I've done over the years that were totally uncomfortable with, and now it's kind of like, whatever, I can do it. I joke about this, but there's one of my first MC events, and there was a few hundred people there. I kind of needed a bourbon before I went on stage. Sometimes that helped me, but now it's like, whatever. And another time, a number of years back, I spoke to a group, did a presentation. Pretty much I was the speaker of the day. I think I was in Dallas is where this was held at. I'm not quite sure. I think it was Dallas, and I spoke before my peers. I think there was somewhere around 400 people at the event. Room full of financial advisors, and I spoke before them that day. I was one of the key speakers over the 2-day event. I'm like, that was kind of intimidating for a few minutes there, and then after a few minutes is like, okay, here's my thoughts on all these different topics and such. I want to circle back to something I covered here recently, and I want to talk to you about as well. And one of the things we have when we're investing and saving money is you've kind of got two areas that you can go. One of the core things is, how much risk do you want to take? We actually have an online access to, you go to the website. I can't tell you off the top of my head where it's at, but it's over at GregoryRicks.com. And you can take a risk assessment. What's your number? When you come in for a first visit, that's kind of one of the things we would like to figure out with you. And it might not happen on your first visit, but definitely you come back in for a second visit. We are getting to that. You can't have a financial plan built without knowing your risk number. And there is a number between 1 and 100. And I'll tell you where most people fit somewhere between 10 and 70. And most people think their risk number is higher than it actually is. And if you score a 70, we're not going to build your portfolio based upon that 70. We're going to reduce your risk. You're more than likely to have a portfolio built on a risk score of 60 versus a 70. You're just taking too much risk. Some people think they're a 80, and the reality is they're probably a 50. You see what I'm getting at? People think they've got more tolerance than they actually do. Some think they're a 50 and they're a 30. Some people think they're a 0, and I'll tell you, from 0 to 10 is basically the same score. You don't have any risk tolerance. If you're a 20, you've got a little bit. But your risk score should reduce as you age, especially as you age through retirement. Recently, I spoke about an individual that came in, and he's been in retirement, but with recent market volatility a little bit, he decided he would be better off if he took the risk off the table. So we adjusted his portfolio basically to get him down to a 10, which is equivalent of a 0 as well. And one of the tools we added to his mix was using a fixed annuity, and may have used more than one, but the objective is fixed interest annuity is kind of interest correlated. Fixed indexed annuity is kind of correlated to where you've got a base. You don't have any downside exposure, but you have some upside index opportunity because the growth can be linked to a market index to give you more upside, but you have no downside exposure. And even if you have risk tolerance, some of those tools should be into the mix, because one of the things you've heard me talk about in the past is sequence of return risk. And that's where you're taking income from market assets and volatility. Markets go down, you're selling shares to take income, you're locking in losses. So that's sequence of return risk. We don't want your income coming from a financial tool that exposes you to sequence of return risk. And one of the great tools for using that and creating that stability is a fixed indexed annuity. And when we talk about the invest 50-50 philosophy, it's part of that philosophy. Hey, I like the S&P 500. I like blended ETFs. I like buffers. I like some bonds in the mix. So I do like risk assets, but I like risk off assets as well, and believe you should have some fixed indexed annuity tools in there. At least some are going to be added at some point, because you've got to have an answer for sequence of return risk. We need a retirement plan to go very well for a long time. If you're retiring at age 60, how long are you going to need that money? Do you know? You could possibly need money off of those assets for 30 or more years. Now, I know I hear this. People say, oh, Gregory, I'm just not going to be around that long. Well, there's a couple. Women typically outlive the men. Sometimes it's reversed, but more often than not, women outlive the husbands. I expect life expectancy to continue to increase as technology increases. So do you really know how long you're going to need income from that? You don't. So we need this to go well and go beyond what you think it is. And that's one reason we always, in our annual strategy meetings, we're looking to the future. We're forward thinking. And that strategy meeting kind of looks at what changes are we thinking this year? What are we looking at the next few years? I like for you to know what's coming, prepare you for what's coming. If there's a problem, what's coming. And I've shared this often, and I go back to my mom's story. You know, Dad was killed in an offshore accident a long time ago, and Mom, with the settlements, came into quite a bit of money. I was in school at the time. Even back then, what I recommended, because we had a family sit down with my sisters and I, as well as Mom, and she shared what she was going on. She was being offered a lump sum of money along with a lifetime income, and she could take more of the lump sum, less of the income, or could take more of the lifetime income and less lump sum. I obviously knew my mom, and that troubled me. And I remember circling back a couple times, talking to her about more taking more of the monthly income versus the lump sum. Some of my regular listeners and people that have known me for a long time know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you, what do you think she chose? Think she chose the larger cash or the larger income? Those that picked the larger cash are right. She took more of the lump sum and small. She had guaranteed lifetime income as part of that, but that was a smaller part. What do? It's her decision. And 10 years went by and the lump sum was depleted. I was going to say it was gone. And it's gone. It was gone. 10 years. And that created a struggle for her thereafter and later in life. And there's more stories about that. But that's why it's retirement is about monthly income and how assets can be turned into monthly income. And that would have been fine if she would not have spent through the money. But that's why I say I know Mom. And that's where as much as possible should have been turned into monthly income that she wouldn't spend through it. But that's one of the things we have to do is we have to build up money. Just because you have $500,000 there does not mean you just burn through that money. You've got to turn that into a lifetime income. You can have a spend down over time, but where should a depletion point? And that's one of the things we look at. I kind of, when I'm putting together and how I've looked at creating plans over the years, kind of my core thinking, and it comes from what happened to Mom, is I kind of like put together an income plan. And of course, an income plan means we're accounting for 30 years into retirement at the core, kind of principle right there. But one of the things I look at is when we look at where are you now, what does it look like in 15 years? Then I want to go back and see what the 5 and 10 looks like, because I think of now, 5 years, 10 years, and 15 years. Then I'll jump out, what does it look like at 30 years? What does it look like at 40 years? Is there a 0 point? I want to see where that is. If it becomes depleted, where is that? If it never comes depleted, fine. Sometimes people show a depletion point at 110, age 120. I'm like, they're like, are we good? I said, hey, you still have money at age 120 based upon this plan. You're good. It doesn't mean we don't review things every year and look through it, but it's kind of that. So if you've got retirement assets, this isn't about spending through. Have I chosen not to work with families in the past? Yes, I have. Why? They were going to spend through their money. It was going to be a bad outcome. There's times where we've not gone forward. I had a gentleman a number of years ago sit down with me, and that he knew he was going to run out of money and wanted a second opinion, and went through how he got into this situation, what's going on in his life, why can't he work still, and so forth, and how long the money's going to last at return and spend rate. And I evaluated that, yeah, you are going to run out of money. And the only fix is that he needs to get back to work, reduce the dependency on the assets that he has, and generate income. But he's in a health situation where he couldn't go back to work. We could have probably done better on managing the assets, but I couldn't save him. I couldn't fix the income plan, and I didn't recommend him changing firms. We did not have that type of conversation, and I didn't think that would be helpful to him. You know, we don't try to get everybody to go forward. What was best for him to stay where he's at. Here's one of the things is when we know something's going to be broken like that, I don't want them to run out of money on my watch. He's on somebody else's watch, and they're doing appropriate, and I could not figure out how to do it. But our objective is to make money last and go forward and have people and work with people that, because that's one of our, when we work with some great clients and we kind of judge that, are they nice people? Are they going to be nice to our staff? We want to work with people we get along with. And one other here is, are they going to be a good steward of their money? There's been a few cases where I didn't go forward because I felt they were not going to be good stewards of their money. And another reason to go forward is they're going to go broke. They're going to run out of money, and I can't fix it. I can't save them. So we wouldn't go forward in that case. So that's where our objective for retirement to go well, we cannot go through our money. You cannot go through your money. And we as advisors are tasked to help you with that, to act in your best interest. And sometimes that is that advice, to have that discussion. And I've had to have it when families have taken over assets that somebody's not able to take care of themselves, and then all of a sudden they start going through their parents' money. And I've had family meetings, and sometimes that just did not stop, and they ran out of money. And I'm like, oh, you need to stop this. All I can do is give advice, but we're not going to go into a plan knowing that. But Mom went through her money, and I knew that probably would happen, and that's why I recommended her take more income. Naturally, as savers and being prudent and good stewards of our money that we accumulate, we're not going to do that. Just because you have a lot doesn't mean you go spend a lot. You've got $500,000, then you're supposed to be able to generate 4% income from that. You've got $1 million, that 4% income gets you twice as much, and it's supposed to last. And then on the back end of life, you may have a lot of costs that impact the value of those holdings, but life is on its end back there where you're needing more help, and you're having to maybe spend on more health care and getting help on the end of life. I've crudely said, and it's just how I think about it, we got to have the ability to burn through some money on the back end of life, meaning having that ability, meaning have money to spend to pay for additional health care beyond your monthly income needs. That's why I like to look. What does it look like 30 years out, 40 years out? How much is money going to be there? You know, are we using financial tools that help in that situation? Not long-term care, but those tools, it can be long-term care, but some situations where you get in a certain health situation, the income increases, or we have the ability to spend that money right there. So that's how we kind of think about that income planning out there and helping people. So if you're trying to do it yourself, these are lessons for you right here to think about, what are you doing from that standpoint. And volatility impacts us, and that's why we've got to understand that. I recently spoke about this book here, and I've got marked here, Money, Psychology of Money, right there. Along with my book, Retirement Deserves a Helpful Hand. I had to turn around and look at the topic. It's a retirement book. There's so many great books to read. Got another one here, The New Rules of Retirement Saving, The Latte Factor by David Bach, one of my favorite writers, along with this one here, Morgan Housel. But one of the, let's see, where am I at here? I'm probably going to run out of time here on this, but On page 66, he goes through these, how many of it? Looks like about a dozen things. One of them I've got highlighted. Stocks have lost a third of their value. This is things that have happened in the economy over the past 170 years. One I have highlighted there is stocks lost a third of their value at least 12 times. Well, it's actually more than that because this book was printed in, I believe, in 2021. So it's happened more than that since then. And some of the indices a little bit more. So kind of say that 13 or 14 times out of 170 years. Well, out of 100 years still. It doesn't happen very often. So that's a scary thing, and all of your assets should not be correlated that. Only a portion, not 100%. And it should be where you have that tolerance. That's why you need a risk number, is how are you going to react when that happens? Because on the other hand, being it doesn't happen very often, and just like that dartboard, Stacy ordered for me because I would put it in my cart and then the cart gets booted out because I kind of do a pause when I'm thinking about ordering something. It turns out it saves me money, but it kicked me out. But one reason I was looking at the dartboard, it's like 50% off. Saved me a couple $100. I was like, okay, I like me a discount, but that also doesn't mean I'm gonna buy it because it's discounted. But it's kind of like when the market's down 30%, like this doesn't happen very often. It's rare. It is scary when it happens, but I'd like to shift some more over there. I don't know when it's going to go back up. It could go down some more, but it's rare, and that's kind of where it's reaching its limit because somebody's coming in and start buying. You know, the Warren Buffetts out there. When everybody's afraid, they get excited because they'll go in and start buying because fear's driving down the market. But that's where if we're retirement and taking income, we need our income to come from a stable source, not something that's going to go down 10%, 20%, or 30%. We don't need our income coming from that. And we are going to have to shift over to that area where our income's coming from. So you're going to reduce risk exposure more and more during retirement. And for most people, they don't have huge margins, meaning excess retirement, meaning, yeah, all of my retirement, you know, when I project you'll live to 100, most of your assets are going to remain intact. That's because they have a lot. Most people are going to see a depletion over retirement. And that's one reason I started out with that risk number. That's why you need a risk number. Go to our website, GregoryRicks.com, and there's a place to kind of get that there. If you're looking for some help, for a conversation, we don't apply pressure. If you want to come in for a visit, fine. If you don't want to come back after that visit, fine. We're not going to close you. We're not going to try to get you to buy, make a decision. You can become a client if you want to, but you're pretty much going to have to ask. On a visit 2 is where we're going through the different tests, the different analysis to prepare for your own income plan, Social Security analysis, talk about your risk analysis and what the process of being a client and all that looks like, and even ask you if you want to go forward. We don't make you, we don't talk you into it, we don't pressure you. It's a ask and answered. If you say, well, I still want to think about it, I'm working through it, that's fine. First visit, you can ask, but we're probably not asking. All we ask on the first visit is for you to come back in at a second visit and look at those things. There is no pressure ever. We're going to communicate with you regularly. Even if you don't come on board, we'll do follow-ups with you. We'll look to add value to your life. If you're a client, we're going to add value and keep in touch with you from here going forward. And we're a family office. We're there to help your family. We're there to help your friends too and provide value to them. You're getting value. Don't keep us as your best kept secret. If we could be of help, reach out to the office, 504-832-9200. info@gregoryricks.com is the email. The website, gregoryricks.com. Go check us out and give us a ring. Love to hear from you. We're going to take a short break. Are you worried about navigating the new tax law? Gregory Ricks Total Wealth is hosting a workshop on what the One Big Beautiful Bill could mean for your retirement. Join us Thursday, March 19th at 5:30 in Metairie. Seating is limited. Secure your spot today by calling 504-832-9200 or at gregoryricks.com.
Investment advisory products and services are made available through AE Wealth Management LLC, a registered investment advisor. Gregory Ricks Associates is not affiliated with the U.S. government.
When it comes to your home loan, details matter. At Mortgage Gumbo Jackham, we've been serving our communities with true white glove service for over 30 years. 30 years of proven results isn't luck. It's knowledge earned, markets navigated, and trust built one home loan at a time. Just read our reviews. Whether you're buying, refinancing, or planning your next move, let's create a tailored strategy to meet your needs. Seasoned guidance, clear answers, your goals met. Mortgage Gumbo, Dad can.
Hi, I'm Wes Blanchard. We all know Louisiana law is different, but that hasn't stopped national companies from pushing cookie-cutter wills and trusts that don't fit our state. At WJ Blanchard Law, we're local and we're problem solvers. We don't sell fill-in-the-blank forms and hope for the best. We build custom plans that fit your life, your family, and Louisiana law. No templates, no guesswork, just local guidance that puts you first. Visit WJBlanchardLaw.com today to get started. What's your plan? Offices in Metairie and Mandeville. Filing number LA 251-9459.
Mom, it stinks.
Hush, I'm almost done. All right, now you're safe from bugs in the backyard. Don't let mosquitoes ruin your outdoor fun. Call Mosquito Joe today. When you call, they come out and they do the spraying. Mosquito Joe's time-release capsule lasts for about a month. No more sticky bug sprays. Take back your backyard. NewOrleans.MosquitoJoe.com. NewOrleans.MosquitoJoe.com.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks is a copyright of Down South Strategies for the private use of our audience. Any unauthorized use of this broadcast without express consent is prohibited. For podcasts, show information, and contacts to our sponsors, go to winningatlife.com or download the Winning at Life app. If you have a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory. We are Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
iHeartRadio has teamed up with the ultimate countdown king.
Hey, it's Rick Dees, and here's this week's #1 hit.
iHeartRadio and the Rick Dees Weekly Top 40 with 2 exclusive channels. Listen to this week's biggest songs with Rick and the Weekly Top 40.
Then you can hear all of my legendary countdowns from way back, all commercial free.
It's the soundtrack of your life.
Rick Dees. Just search me, Rick Dees, on your free iHeartRadio app and listen now.
iHeartRadio.
Fox News, I'm Pam Huso. A bombing raid on Iran's Karg Island has obliterated military targets there, according to President Trump.
Now, should President Trump and the Pentagon decide to seize Karg Island, that could happen with the Pentagon dispatching more than 2,000 Marines aboard the Tripoli Amphibious Ready Group to the Middle East.
Fox's Lucas Tomlinson, the island's oil infrastructure remains intact. The Pentagon is searching for answers after 6 U.S. service members were killed this week during a refueling mission in Iraq.
Military officials have been clear to say that there was no enemy fire involved, no friendly fire involved.
That's Fox's Steve Harrigan. 3 of the 6 victims were members of the Ohio Air National Guard. A second aircraft was involved but managed to land safely. America's listening to Fox News.
Welcome to Winning at Life, the weekend financial show. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks. If you're just joining, more information about me, go over to gregoryricks.com. That's the website. I'm CEO, founder of Gregory Ricks Total Wealth. Been in the financial services industry my adult life. Fascinated by compound interest since a kid. That was one of my fascinations, and something my parents wasn't always happy about when I was a kid is I always had a fascination with taking things apart. Remember, I don't know, I was 7 years old or something one Christmas, and I was like given this racetrack thing and so forth, and Mom's first instruction was, Gregory, do not take that apart. Well, early on, I was not good at putting things back together. Then I became really good at taking things apart and putting them back together. And even if I come across something that was already taken apart, I could get it put back together. I have no problem in digging in and taking things apart. Somebody's financial situation, guess what I'm pretty good at? I'm in peeling it apart, seeing what's going on, put it back together in my head, and where does this thing go? If it's broken, how do we fix it? You know, that mechanical thing I learned to do as a little kid evolved into how my brain's wired on the financial world as well, on fixing people's money and loving that and having that passion for compounding of money, that magical thing we get to take advantage of. And money grows, and it grows over time, but you have to have money put into an area to grow for it to get there. It's like, oh, it's marvelous. Those that have listened know what's the hardest money to accumulate. It's your first 100,000. What's the easiest to accumulate? That second 100,000. Do you know why? Yeah, compound interest. Rule of 72. If your money's averaging 7.2% return, how often does it double? Every 10 years. So once again, hardest part. So it takes you whatever amount you got. If you've got after 10 years 50,000, the next 50,000 is going to be easy. If you're averaging 7.2% return, hypothetically, it's going to double. 50,000 is going to become 100,000. 100,000 is going to become 200,000. But don't stop adding to it. Create more to add into the compounding. And that's why what's even more awesome is tax-free money compounding. And that's that Roth money. Roth IRAs. You got to get you some. The Trump accounts. Oh my gosh. One of the most awesome things ever done for newborn kids is setting them up a tax-free account in their first year of birth. Unbelievable what can be accumulated over time. The compound interest. You can make returns on money. Heck, interest rates a reasonable return. Market growth over time is a wonderful thing. Money compounds, and there's opportunities because, hey, once in a great while we get discounts. Market had dropped to 20% down. Even rarer thing that happens is it go 30% down. I know people freak out about that, but that is a discount period that rarely happens, and you should be able to shift a little bit over there to get some of that. But also with dollar cost averaging, if you're saving some money every month, you're taking advantage of dollar cost averaging. Why? Because of the ebbs and flows of the market. And over time, what does the market do? Just look at a historical chart. Go look at the S&P 500 on Yahoo Finance or Google. It goes up. Yeah. And if you're doing it systematically, that's one reason your 401ks grow over time. You're just adding in money every month, and you're not worried about it. You go to work every day, you get a paycheck, and you should have withholding. If you're not a part of your company plan, the law doesn't require you to join a company plan. It shouldn't be optional. You should be forced to, but it's voluntary, which I think is appropriate as well. But from your self standpoint, you should look at it as you have to from day one. And I won't say maximize it, but you need to make an effort to get some money in there to be compounding. And that Roth, oh my gosh, Roth money. Here's one of the things about Roth that we know now, because the rules have changed. The IRS, the government wants your money to be taxed. They want you to spend it. If you've got an IRA and you die and leave it to a beneficiary, most cases they're going to have to spend it down over 10 years. They're going to have it depleted by the 10th anniversary of your death, that qualified account. There's a few exceptions. But for most, that means the bennies are going to have to spend it down. If you die after required minimum distributions have started, they have to take distributions out each year, required minimum distributions. And they have to have it depleted by the 10th anniversary of your death. If you die before RMD beginning date, required minimum distribution beginning date, they don't have to take it out, and they don't have to take an annual distribution, but they still have to have it depleted by the 10th anniversary of your death. So they have to spend down the account. So that's being added into their income. So you're probably leaving that money behind if it's being left to your kids. And I'm not speaking of the spouse. I'm speaking of non-spouse beneficiaries. You're leaving it to your kids in their highest income earning years. Now you're giving them these assets. And say it's $500,000. Well, that's got to be spent down over 10 years. If it's $700,000, it's got to be spent down over 10 years. If you're leaving them $1 million, it's got to be spent down over the 10 years. So all that's being taxed at really high brackets. Unless it is a Roth IRA. Roth IRAs do not have required minimum distributions. They can let that money, I always like to call it percolate, let it percolate, let it grow, but they still have to have it depleted. They have to have depleted, meaning that money has to come out of that account by the 10th anniversary of the death. But they can wait up to that day before and let that money. So if you're leaving them $500,000 in Roth money, they can leave it there and let it work. And if it averages 7.2% return, it's going to double in 10 years. 500,000 goes to $1 million. What an awesome gift to leave behind. So if you've got a lot of that qualified money built up, one of the things on retirement planning is how do we start shifting money and take advantage of that? We do analysis. We look at the impact of how your retirement income looks over the years, and at what portion, and how does it help you by doing Roth conversions. The story I just told you about the leave behind money is one of the reasons to have that discussion. But one of the reasons for that benefits you is How can you pay less taxes over your retirement utilizing early Roth conversions on converting some of your money? Where is a window to take advantage of that and shifting, and where are we taking income from? And even if you are looking at, say, I'm planning to retire in 5 years, when should I start working with an advisor? Now. If you kind of say, well, I'm thinking about in 7 years, when should I start working with an advisor? Now. Why? You need to talk about these things. Start doing some planning, having somebody to be a sounding board, having somebody to remind you stuff, like to get your estate planning in order. You could die anytime in a car wreck. It happens to people. Sometimes it's a heart attack abruptly. Sometimes it's cancer. You need to plan. You need to plan. Well, I handle all my investments, so I do that myself. Okay, you might need to pick somebody to help your spouse that you're going to leave behind, because what if something happens? We have this happen, and I'm just telling you, you're oblivious to what happens to other people. That's fine. We all are. But we see it live every day, every week, every month, every year. These situations come up, and routinely we have a surviving spouse come to us. I don't know what to do. I'm not sure what all I have, but my husband died. Most cases, that's the comfort. My husband died. He handled everything. I'm looking for some help. That's how the conversation starts. We have this every year. A number of these conversations start that way. We also have families come to us, and it's kind of like, we want to find somebody to work with in case something happens. We want to have that going. Spouses that have a spouse that, if you have a spouse that's handling everything, talk to them about getting some help. I know you got to let go of the control and let somebody help you there. I always, when I have them, I kind of do it myself. I think I'm just going to keep doing that. And I'm just like, okay, when you die, who's going to help your wife? Who's going to help your spouse? That's kind of those questions right there. Does your spouse understand sequence of return risk? Do they understand a 60-40 stock portfolio versus bond portfolio? Do they understand about taking income? How to do that? How to make those decisions? How are they handling the estate once you're gone? That's why you need to pick somebody to work with. And here's when you think about it, when you think about retirement, there's a point in the future. What about selling the business? If you die, who's taking over the business? Or at some point, and this is the emphasis at our firm. There is an article I'm going to share with you on an upcoming episode regarding business transitions. A lot. I can say it up a few more times. A lot of businesses are going to be transferring to other family members or just out and be sold. Most of America's economy is made up of small businesses, and these people are graying. It's the article, I think, is the graying of American businesses, and that means these businesses are going to transition, and we are making an emphasis on kind of being helpful to those people on the planning for that transition, whether it's to other family members taking over or the process of selling it. having a plan for also if something happens to you, what happens to that business. You know, can you turn that into an ongoing legacy? It's also if something happens to you, what happens to your retirement assets? What happens to your properties? What happens to your money? How is the survivors handling that? Hopefully it's not like my mom and they burned through capital. You know, after Dad's death, she came into all that money. You've heard me tell that story before. She had that choice in the settlement. Because it was an offshore accident, so there was settlement. She came in the money. She had the choice of lump sum versus monthly income, less lump sum, more monthly income, vice versa. She chose more of the lump sum, which was not a good choice for her. I recommended her not. And that kind of led to a basis of me and my financial services business that I chose to go into. After this, kind of core about helping people keep money intact, grow it, and be good stewards and create income plans that work for them going in the future, and how to look at money long term and make it work, and be able to counsel people and give advice and help them. Why? I have intimate knowledge of it going wrong with a family member. And I also know the outcome of losing family members and dealing with that such over my adult life and helping them with those decisions. And that's why we work with a lot of families, have an advisory team made up of, I think we have 6 licensed people on staff. We are actively recruiting to add to that staff. We have a full staff of over 23 employees. Overall staff we're looking to increase, and we're there to be of service, to counsel, help people with their financial decisions, be that sounding board, build financial plans, help them stay on course, help them make sure they don't run out of money, help them with the right time to turn on Social Security. If there's a spouse surviving, one of the things I always tell them, if Fred dies, you're not going to have to make big decisions. It's not going to happen that all of a sudden you got to come in and make big decisions. Everything's just going to continue. Will there be decisions to make? Yeah, you've got to make changes. You'll have to change beneficiary decisions. There might be some adjustments in the portfolio, but it's not like it changes everything and you've got to go in. If you're both in retirement somehow, you know what? The checks, they keep coming. There are adjustments and stuff and work we got to do, but nothing all of a sudden you've got to do. It's when you're not working with somebody and that spouse is left behind, they're kind of in a bind and making decisions there. I know they might do like you and try to do it on their own, and gosh, it might not go so well. And then you might be seeing this in your parents' situation and all, and trying to have to give them some help in those situations. And here's one thing I go to for your parents is ask them, do they have a retirement plan? Are they working with someone? Who it is? You might should get to know that person. You might should be working with that person. At our firm, we look at what we do as a family office. You're working with us. We want to help your family members. We want to help your kids. We'll help your friends as well. We actively make it more of a community there because you're working with us. You think and know we're awesome. I'm biased. We're awesome. And we do want to be helpful. So we actually put an emphasis on that. We're going because you're naming your kids or family members beneficiaries. Well, we want to get to know them because we want to make sure that they're making good decisions, they're prudent, they're doing good with their retirement plans. And when they become stewards of what you leave behind, we want them to make good decisions with it and that money lasts a long time. And that's where, when I talk to people that have come in, inherited money and assets, and that's one of the things we just advocate is becoming a good steward of that money. And sometimes people, like, oh, I've got to hold on to this railroad stock. This was grandpa's stock and I want to hold it. And sometimes and that's just an example. I just say railroad stock, but they're holding it. Sometimes they're tied to it because somebody else owned it, and they might not necessarily should hold that, especially if it's not a good one or its value is going down. What we want to look at, what you inherited, is that value. How can we keep that value intact and grow that value also? Just like if you inherited their house, but you don't like the house, you don't want the house has problems. Should you keep it because you inherited it? No. You might want to get the value out of it and put it to something else. See, those are discussions that we can have and help you through with that. But you should ask your parents, how's their health? How is that being taken care of? Tell me about your health insurance, your Medicare, and so forth. How's retirement going? Who you're working with? And that they have a plan. Do you have a will? Do you have POAs? They need to kind of have these things. Sometimes you're going to nudge them to do that. And parents on the other side, same way with your kids. They should be doing these things. You're not going to pry in, but you also say, hey, you should talk to Gregory Ricks Total Wealth. They've got a great team of people. They do educational events and such to help you with that. And we are doing educational events. Look, if you like some of this stuff, some of this is helpful, you want to take a discussion further about your family, extended family, our family office, your situation, the office number is 504-832-9200. info@gregoryricks.com is the email address. Once again, the website is gregoryricks.com. You can go up there and sign up and start a visit through the process. There's a chat box on the website. You can email to start a conversation. Somebody will respond to you next week. We can start that conversation. We're doing educational events. We're doing some with a nonprofit. We've got an event coming up every month. I was going to say we got one coming up this week, but we always have monthly events coming up on the Gulf Coast of Mississippi, North Shore, Mandeville, Abita, Covington area, New Orleans area, Metairie. We have monthly events coming up. Go to the website, check that out, our events page, and let's get a conversation started. Come to event, get to know us, and we'll go from there. If you have any questions, reach out. We're going to be of help. Thanks for listening this weekend. Y'all have a blessed weekend. Reach out if we can help you. Love you. Take care.
Investment advisory products and services made available through AE Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Gregory Ricks Associates, Incorporated. AE Wealth Management does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Gregory Ricks Associates, Incorporated are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing carrier. This radio show was intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for a financial decision, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Gregory Ricks & Associates is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Gregory Ricks & Associates. Please remember that converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. Increased taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences, including but not limited to a need for additional tax withholding or estimated tax payments, the loss of certain tax deductions and credits, and higher taxes on Social Security benefits and higher Medicare premiums. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA. Neither AE Wealth Management nor advisors providing investment advisory services through AE Wealth Management recommend or facilitate the buying or selling of cryptocurrencies. Third parties and guests of the show are not affiliated with, nor do their opinions reflect those of Gregory Ricks Associates or AE Wealth Management. AE Wealth Management provides services without regard to political affiliation, and the views of individual advisors are not necessarily the views of AE Wealth Management. We are winning at life with Gregory Ricks.
News Talk 99.5 WRNO FM, New Orleans, comes from the Mortgage Gumbo Studios.
Your locally trusted